And that young man, I mean, there are so many things we could say about him. So many things. He's an outstanding student. He is got tremendous accolades. He's been well raised. He's got great bloodlines. You'd want him speaking to your church. You'd want him speaking to your youth group. You'd want him coming to your kid's birthday party. You'd want him seeing Grandma and Grandpa. What I love most about him is he is a year-round winner. 3 state championships. That's one thing he's got over all his brothers right now. They all won a state championship. He won 3 of them. And to me, that says a lot about where he's at. That says a lot about what he's going to bring. He's going to bring a demeanor to our program that we need. He's going to bring I don't want to say a face. That's too much. We know that he's coming in with a lot. And I think he's going to command respect with his work ethic and with his ability to make his teammates better as much as he does anything else. What he scores, what he does here, what he does there, how he plays against this group, how he plays against that group, that'll all play itself out. The demeanor of making his teammates better is what's really, really going to be important. Another young man that we signed that I think brings the same type of attributes of making his teammates better is from right down the street at Eastern High School in Louisville, Remy Abel. If we would have had an extra scholarship in the, well, we had one, but we felt it would probably not be in our best interest to use it while Cody Zeller was still available. So obviously, we made the right choice there. It would have taken an act of Congress for me to give that scholarship up before, and I don't think anybody in Congress, knowing our situation, would have made us do it. But to sit there and wait on Cody was worth every second of it, even though it was agonizing. It was worth every second of it. Well, if we'd have had a scholarship, we'd have probably given it to Remy, because I really liked the way that he played. I liked how he was at our team camp. I liked how he was in the summer. I liked the fact that there were other high-level programs recruiting him. And to me, it's not about, is it a who's who? It's not about the ranking. It's about who's recruiting him to, who sees what I see. Now maybe when we signed Dwayne Wade at Marquette, there were only 3 other schools that even offered him a scholarship. Illinois State, Bradley, and St. Louis, until DePaul did at the very, very end. So every once in a while, you can't put a lot of stock into who else is recruiting him. And I never put stock into the rankings. If I did, we'd have never signed Dwayne Wade. He wasn't even ranked in the top 500 going into the summer of his senior year. Can you imagine that? So next time somebody talks to you about rankings, put that story in the back of your head. All right, there were 500 kids ranked by the #1 recruiting service, summer going right now, in June of the summer before his senior year, and his name was not in that service. And he's one of the best players in the world right now, and deservedly so. So rankings aren't the most important thing. What's inside of you, now that's real important. And that's what I saw when I watched Remy. And when I start to see these other coaches that I've respected sitting there following him around, I said, man, you know what? I think he's got it. But we can't do anything right now. Well, when he signed with Bradley, there was a coaching change. He had a great relationship with the former head coach. He decided to get out of it. And we paid attention in a big way from that point on. He knew of our interest, we knew of his interest, and it moved really fast. Because anytime you can get a year-round winner, anytime you can get somebody that's got an attitude about winning, that mental preparation that I'm talking about, that enthusiasm, that energy that we're talking about, anytime you can add that person to your program, you're going to do it. And if you know anything about this rivalry between Kentucky and Indiana, you know that Kentucky-Indiana game is a pretty big deal. Well, Kentucky, it's the same thing there as it is in Indiana. And what's amazing is since the early 70s, very early 70s, this had never happened until this year. 4 Eastern players on that Kentucky All-Star team. That's a big deal. Very well-coached team, a team that played extremely hard and well and competitive throughout the year. And I think we got a really, really good player. Right now, off the street, he walks in. He's the best on our team at getting to the rim. I mean, no offense to anybody else. He gets to the rim. He'll take a hit. He'll take contact. I think he can defend. He's a combination guard that can move the ball. He'll make his teammates better, and he wants to be at Indiana. So the fact that we've come into southern Indiana twice, I know the Louisville billboards sit out there. I'm not buying any of that. Okay, when we go into Louisville and go get a player that can come in and help us in Indiana, we're going to do it. We're going to do it, and that's what we did. And last but not least is Austin Etherington. A year ago, he was the only commitment that we had. It's a little bit different now. But he was the first to jump on and say, you know, I really want to be a part of this. And it's been, a tremendous recruiter for us in the sense of getting players and rallying them around. And it's amazing what happens when kids start to have the same kind of bond and goal. And that's to win and to bring a school like Indiana back. And Austin's a huge, huge part of that. He had a very good year. He's a tough young man. He's mentally tough. He's physically tough. He can make shots. He's going to play different positions for us. He's a little bit hidden because he doesn't always get, he gets tremendous coverage because he's an Indiana recruit, but he doesn't always get that household name coverage because he's just a little bit far enough out of Indianapolis that you're not necessarily going to get all the TV crews to be at his games. But I think you're going to like him, and you'll have a chance to see him in the Indiana-Kentucky game too. And those three bring with that is that third component of what we want the program to be about every day. Every day you've got to come in there ready to compete. I mean every day. And competing to me doesn't mean you enjoy winning. Competing to me means you hate, despise, can't stomach losing. And that's what our spring has been like. Because I look at what Indiana is all about. I look at what it has been all about. I look at what's going on in the athletic department. I look at what's going on academically. You look at where the schools, the different parts of the university are ranked. And you see all these different aspects there. Then you walk into Assembly Hall and you see those banners. And you know that your mission is to get this to a place where it's really, really got to be at a high level. And that's exactly the way we're coaching every day. That's the exact thing that Verdell Jones is hearing. Even though he couldn't participate in the spring because he had to have a surgery on his knee to make sure that he was fully healthy. He never really was 100% healthy after he got hurt. And it was just so ironic that three guys that were coming off their best games in January got hurt at the time of those games. Maurice, who was just starting to climb out of that mental anguish that he was dealing with coming back from that knee injury, and he gets hurt on January 15th. Then we go play Wisconsin. Verdell has a great game against Michigan. He's playing extremely well against Wisconsin. He gets hurt in that game. And then a week later, a week and a half later, we go up to Michigan State, and Christian Watford's diving on the floor for loose balls. I mean, seriously. Seriously. If somebody would have said, do you have his birth certificate? Is that really Christian Watford? Can you prove that? I wouldn't have put my job on it. Because, I mean, I didn't recognize him. I mean, he's diving on the floor for loose balls. It was incredible. And he got hurt about 4 minutes into the game and played with part of a broken wrist for about 30 minutes, and nobody knew it. You know, those were the steps that you got to take when toughness needs to become a talent. And we haven't always had that yet. Now, I know Indiana's always had that. We haven't always had that. And that's what we're aspiring to get to. When I talk about getting high-level Big Ten players and having enough of them, toughness being a talent is a huge, huge part of that. And Christian had that injury, and those things just set us back. Well, Verdell, getting back to him, he wasn't able to participate in the offseason workout on the court, so he just made himself better in the weight room. That kid's up to 200 pounds now. And when you come into the program at about 163, 164, all right, and you get yourself up to 200 pounds, that's pretty strong. That's good. We'll take that. We'll take that. Christian had an outstanding spring. I mean, an outstanding spring. Without Verdell, we put Jordan, Will Sheehy, Victor Oladipo, and Christian in the same four-man workout group. And we turned that level up unlike anything that I think they had seen at Indiana. Because if we're going to take steps, those four guys have got to be a huge part of it. They've got to be a huge part of it. Christian's got to learn how to rebound at a high level. He's got to learn to put a commitment to the defensive level that makes those feet move that much better. He's got to become a two-way player in a big way. And I know two-way players, there's not a lot of them in football anymore. My brother-in-law had a pretty famous one at Stanford this year. The kid that played fullback and he played linebacker for him, went in the fourth round to the Browns. But you don't see a lot of two-way players. Well, you know what? We don't put enough credence on that in basketball. You're not winning big games if you don't have guys that are high level on both ends. That's why the Heat are winning right now. I mean, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, those guys play defense at an extremely high level. And you've got to have guys that are legit two-way players. Well, Christian's got to learn how to do that. He's got to become a legit two-way player. And when he does, his steps are going to just take off. They're going to grow. There's no doubt about it. Victor and Will, we got about a month and a half into the season, and nobody was wondering why we didn't sign an Indiana recruit last year with those two guys with 2 scholarships. They were outstanding. And they took steps the entire way. Victor and Jordan just got back from an Athletes in Action trip to China. I don't think either one of them has been awake yet. So I haven't had a chance to visit with either one of them yet. One's in D.C., and the other one just got back to Bloomington in Georgia. But I can't wait to hear about that experience. Will, he's been back. We got him to shave the beard. How many movie fans in here? We got some movie fans. Colin Farrell? All right, the actor. Will came back. He had that stubble. I mean, I thought he was trying to enter a look-alike contest. Colin Farrell look-alike. We got that shaved off. He looks good. And, I love having that kid around. I mean, he's somebody you're going to really want to pay attention to, as is Victor Oladipo. Derek Elston's another one. He didn't get to have a great spring because we had to get his injuries corrected. We had to get his health right. And he had to have a surgery a few weeks back, which is setting back a little bit, but and it was a stomach muscle. Once he gets that handled, I think you'll see him. He never really was healthy this season. We've already covered Tom. If he can get himself to the point where he can rebound at a good level, where he can score and get that go-to jump hook move that he needs to have, and continue to progress defensively, he's going to be good. You had those other guys inside of there. You put a Matt Roth, who nobody in this gym, nobody in either state, Kentucky, Indiana, and surrounding states, want to get into a pig or a horse competition with that kid. He just makes shots, and he gets better at it all the time. And last but not least is the guy that, if he'd have stayed healthy, we'd be talking about where he's going to go in the draft this month. I have no doubt about it. Maurice Creek would have never gotten hurt. He'd be getting ready to leave. That's how good he was when he got hurt. When you put 31 on Kentucky, and I know all of you know how good a team they have had. And when you put 31 on them, and there's really no defense that John had to get him stopped that day. And when you look at the fact that he was the leading freshman scorer in the country when he got hurt a year ago at 17 a game. And then you talk about a guy that gets his game taken away from him because of his knee. Gets himself almost to the point where he's back. Maybe not where he was, but back to where he had that confidence, that ferociousness. And then to go down with the other knee, say a prayer for him every night, because he deserves it. He's been through a lot. And he kind of epitomizes this program right now. And that gets to that last point, that competing part, that hating to lose part. There's nobody that sits in there right now that accepts that we're not where we want to be. There's nobody that sits in there and says, let's hope that we get better because so many other guys are leaving the league. The league's been unbelievable the last couple of years. It's an old league. It gets old every year. There's juniors and seniors in this league every year. You're going to have great coaches. You're going to have great battles. You're going to have great places to go and play. It doesn't match Assembly Hall. Again, when you look at the crowds and you look at the support that everybody's given and you see where we continue to rank in attendance, it's amazing. The loyalty is amazing. Reminds me of a story of a man that was upstairs for a game, and he didn't have a very good seat, the euchre seats, okay? But he was up there, and he was happy to be at the game. Well, he was one of those guys. He thought ahead. He brought a pair of binoculars. So he's looking down, and all of a sudden, right around center court, a couple rows up, he sees an empty seat. So it stays there for 5, 6, 7 minutes, and he decides, you know, I'm going to take a shot at this. Because I'm not really enjoying it up here. I'm going to go downstairs. So he goes downstairs, works his way, and I don't know how he got by our security people up there, but he did. Okay? And he goes and he sits next to this man, and he says, is this seat taken? He says, no, it was my wife's, and she's not here. And he goes, do you mind if I sit down? And she goes, yeah, that'd be okay. And he says, well, what happened to your wife, sir? He says, well, she passed away. And he says, oh, I'm so sorry about your loss. And he sat there and watched it, and we're playing, and he says, forgive me for asking, isn't there anybody else that could have come with you to this game? He said, yeah, there is, but they're all at her funeral. That's a powerful place, okay? When you're packing them in like that in Assembly Hall, Kevin's going to find that out. He's going to find out what it's like in there, because it's going to be the same type of situation. Who said that? There's nothing wrong with that. Give me a shot at the humor, okay? For 3 years, I've had no humor here. My wife always says, no jokes, you're not funny. Okay? I'll try to do this. Okay? Bottom line is, there's nobody sitting at Indiana right now, whether it's at the Bryan Hall, whether it's in the North End Zone in Fred's office, whether it's in our basketball office, or whether it's down in the Cook Hall Gymnasium, the weight room. Okay? Not trying to get this thing where it needs to be. Every day, the mission is clear. We are here to get better. You are here to compete with one another. You're here to compete against yourself, because we are here to take the program to the proper place that it belongs. And all you got to do is look around and read and say, it's not a real popular thing for Indiana to come back in this nation the way that it has been in the past. There's a lot of programs that got used to Indiana not being up at the top. There's a lot of programs and a lot of places that got used to Indiana being down on the bottom. All right, enjoying that last place view. Those days are just about over. And what we've got to do is we've got to continue to understand that inside of our building, there is not one soul, all right, that looks at it as anything other than an absolute privilege to represent you, to represent that program, to represent the university the right way. They won't play for me if they don't. And as we continue to build this thing, you're going to be proud of what they do academically. You're going to be proud of what they do socially, and you're going to be extremely proud of what they do on the court.